You can just do it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So I think we are live now. So good afternoon from Manila. My name is Vicky Antonio, and I'm honored to welcome you today to the last session of this 4-day event. I'm working as a consultant with the Urban Climate Change Resilience Trust Fund in SDCC. So when I first visited Seoul about 4 years ago on a study tour, I was very impressed with how the city government used big data in managing the city, from sensors installed throughout the city to monitor traffic and rainfall, down to detectors installed in public trash cans to alert the solid waste management department if it was time to empty them. I was also amazed at the efforts the city took to reinvent itself, including the conversion of the now very famous Cheonggyecheon River from an open sewer to an elevated highway, and finally to an urban park. And then there is also the Sky Garden, which I had a chance to visit, that was repurposed from a highway overpass to an overhead botanical garden. So these areas definitely provide much needed respite within the built up areas. So there's really much we can learn from Korean cities on how we can merge technology and urban planning and urban design in making our cities more livable in the face of challenges we face in fast-growing cities. Over the past few days, we listened to smart city technology applications for improving urban service delivery, integrated water management and energy management in urban centers in Korea. This afternoon, we will hear from 5 speakers who will discuss the challenges in urban public transport and explore various options to make them green, sustainable, and efficient. I would like to apologize in advance to our speakers if I'm unable to pronounce your names correctly, as my Korean is not very good. And as a reminder, please limit your presentation to 15 minutes. I will notify you when you have 2 minutes left. So we will have 5 presentations to be followed by a question and answer session in the end. If you have any questions for the speakers, kindly enter them into the Q&A chat box. You'll see it on the lower right hand of the bar, so that we can line them up for the discussion later in the session. So we start this afternoon session with a presentation from Dr. Tae-Hyung Kim. He's a director and senior research fellow at the Center for Smart City Transport, Korea Transport Institute, who will set the context by discussing the challenges faced by Korean cities in the transport sector, the solutions that have been applied, and the lessons learned from these. Dr. Kim has been involved in various studies and research projects related to intelligent transport systems and mobility in smart cities for over 15 years. So over to you, Dr. Kim.
Yeah, thank you for your warm introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Tae-Hyung Kim. I'm working at the Center for Smart City and Transport at the Korea Transport Institute. I'm so pleased to be here, and it is my great honor to have a talk about the mobility revolution in Korea, and more specifically on ITS to smart mobility in Korea. So here is the contents. Could you, yeah, the next. Yeah, so here is the contents of today's presentation. So first of all, I'm going to explain how ITS has been introduced to Korea and its effect and benefit in Korea. And then I want to share some lessons that we have learned through the several decades of ITS experience in Korea. And through this, I would like to propose smart mobility as one of the best solutions for a future mobility revolution, and introduce various effort and attempt moving forward to smart mobility in Korea. Next. Next. So the many cities, no, before, page 4. Next. Now page 4. I'm sorry. Okay, so the many cities in Korea have been experiencing a rapid increase in vehicles and urbanization over several decades. This phenomenon has been causing numerous traffic problems in Korea, such as traffic congestion and traffic accident, air pollution, etc. Next. So various policies and efforts at the national level have been attempted to solve these transportation problems. So several strategies, such as constructing new road and managing demand, or providing new mode of transportation to reduce traffic demand, have been attempted. And we found that as one of the feasible solutions, ITS that can optimize and utilize the existing infrastructure and systems was introduced. Next. So the introduction of ITS have brought a variety of effect and benefit across sectors. Above all, the improvement of public transportation services has resulted in an increase in the number of public transportation users and the continuous increase in a modal share of public transportation. So it also had a positive effect, such as increase in vehicle speed by 15 to 20% and decrease in a number of fatalities caused by traffic accident. It also has reduced greenhouse gas and oil consumption by decreasing traffic congestion and idling. The convenience and satisfaction level of citizens using ITS services have continuously increased. In addition, the effect of the contributing to the national economy, such as the growth of ITS-related industries and creation of new jobs, has been also shown. So next. So however, we have learned some lessons from the experience of Korea ITS for 20 years and realized that there may be next generation of transport systems beyond the conventional ITS. Next. So once the ITS was introduced in Korea, it has achieved a various positive effect and benefit, as I mentioned in the previous slide. As you can see in this slide, we spent more than 3.5 billion US dollars for 15 years from 2005 to 2020. However, we only installed ITS systems about the 16% of total road length as of 2015 and approximately 20% as of 2020. It means that we still have to spend a huge amount of money for deployment of the conventional IT systems to cover all the roadways in Korea and even more for maintenance of those systems in the near future. Next. In addition, so even though continuous ITS investment, we still have faced many transport challenges. Traffic congestions, especially during the peak hours, are getting worse. The higher traffic fatalities and injuries are one of the key issues for traffic safety in Korea. The vehicle emissions have caused the severe air pollutions and even more climate changes. And also, we still have inconvenient public transportation system due to independent fare policy and payment systems, in a sense that the users pay travel fares each time they transfer from one mode to another mode. And we still need more investment, especially for the vulnerable people. Next. So the Korean government has initiated public and private cooperation on traffic information since 2014 to secure the ITS on equipped roadways by using private services such as TMAP or Kakao Map in Korea. it enables us to save a budget to be spent for additional ITS deployment and concentrate on ITS services for safety issues. Next. And also we found that the ICT advancement converged with smart devices, big data, Internet of Things, and social network, and AI has been changing all social service sectors, including transport services, by enabling higher levels of information connectivity. Next. So what could be a direction for future transport systems? And what kind of strategies and solutions can be applied? So I believe that one of the best solutions is the integration of transport and ICT-based infrastructure, which is ICT-enabled transport systems that is smart mobility. So smart mobility systems could be deployed as more cost-effective and simpler and easier ways of installation, operation, and maintenance. Services for the people could be provided to as greener, smarter, and safer, and more inclusive than the conventional transport systems. The smart mobility could be classified as four features: autonomous, electric, shared and flexible, and connected and integrated mobility. Next. So from this slide, I'm going to briefly introduce our effort to smart mobility in Korea that we have done or in progress right now. Next. This is the cooperative ITS, CITS, which is the next generation ITS technology based on vehicle-to-vehicle and vehicle-to-infrastructure communications. The CITS could collect more accurate and seamless traffic data based on individual pro vehicles and provide more customized and convenient traffic services to drivers, such as traffic information, safety, and emergency services based on V2V and V2I in communications. Next. The CITS pilot project has been done successfully on expressway, national, and urban highways, urban roadways in Daejeon and Sejong City for 3 years to verify CITS technologies and services and prepare a full-scale deployment. It is now expanded to other cities such as Seoul, Gwangju, and Jeju Island. Next. This is the automated shuttle service that could be one of the killer services in smart city. So many countries and cities have developed automated shuttle services such as EasyMile and Nabuya, and conducted pilot tests or demonstrations on roadways. So Korea also developed an automated shuttle named as Zero Shuttle, and it has been under field test for stabilization and localization in Pangyo City. In addition, research has recently begun to develop and serve automated bus to the public through the National R&D project since 2019, and pilot test is underway on real roadway in Sejong City. Next. And also a national smart city pilot project has been started in Sejong 5-1 district. And one of the core services is to implement automated shuttle service for 6 to 12 passengers based on circular operation in fixed route and unmanned operation. Next. In order to improve first and last mile mobility and mitigate traffic congestion caused by vehicle ownership and motorization, we have applied personal mobility and car sharing services, and they are widespread in Korea right now. So for the PM service, we are planning to adopt or develop various types of PM as seen in this slide to satisfy people's needs, especially for the adverse weather conditions and vulnerable people, and free-floating basis car sharing service in which we can pick up and drop off a sharing car anywhere will be tested and operated, because currently in Korea, we are running the car sharing services in a basis of station or designated place. Next. This is a demand responsive transit service, which can be used by real-time or all pre-reservation via internet or smartphone. This service was introduced in Korea, named as eBus, and has been operating as a bus type to provide optimal route and stops, depending on demand of passengers who had same departure times, origin and destinations. This can be expanded to cover other transport modes such as shuttle or taxi type. Next. This is the integrated mobility service that is similar to MaaS, Mobility as a Service in EU. This service enables us to make a search, reservation, and payment services for transportation through a single smartphone application. So it provides improved convenience of using public transportation and improved mobility by connecting to first mile and last mile. I believe that this kind of mobility integration service could be an appropriate alternative to manage the increase of vehicle ownerships appeared in the development stages of developed countries. In fact, this service was applied on a pilot basis at the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games, but it was not very successful at that time due to the several limitations in developing an integrated mobility platform and connecting and integrating all the mobility data from public and private side, and the integration of various payment methods. Next. Hence, since 2019, we have been developing various related technologies, including mobility integration platform, service scenarios, and optimal route algorithm to provide integrated mobility services. And recently, service verification, evaluation are in progress through on-site demonstrations for Daegu metropolitan city. Next.
Last 2 minutes.
Currently in Korea, traffic signal control is too outdated and operating based on TOD basis, but will be moved to AI-based actuated control and tested in National Smart City pilot project very soon. Recently, a smart pedestrian crossing system, which has several functions of sensing and guiding pedestrians, warning to vehicles, indicating signals and information on surface, has been implemented in several cities in Korea and will be expanded nationwide to improve pedestrian safety. Next. This is a smart parking service that searches and reserves the parking spaces in advance before arriving at the destination, and automatically and conveniently pays parking fees through a smartphone. Currently, several local governments are providing these parking services to citizens, and they are being spread to many local governments across the country. Next. So in 2018, in order to create a national new smart city from scratch as a platform that can implement all the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution, the Sejong 5-1 and Busan Eco Delta district were selected as the national pilot smart cities. And through the basic concept design, we have derived the key areas and services to be applied to each city, as shown in this slide. So one of the key areas to be implemented in the national pilot smart city is smart mobility. And it is currently on a stage of the master plan and implementation design. Next. As you can see in this slide, the smart mobility field includes 8 mobility services, such as AI-based smart signal, mobility as a service, smart parking, automated shuttle, and so on. So they will be provided to local residents who will move in around May of 2023 after pilot tests for each service. This is the end of my presentation, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kim, for that very interesting presentation. It's very interesting to see how you have an integrated system of private vehicles, public transport, even taking into consideration pedestrians. I think what's also very important is the last mile connectivity because oftentimes it's the poor and vulnerable that are, affected by that. So that's very interesting to hear. So we can ask Dr. Kim more questions in the Q&A session. So now I would like to call on Ms. Soo Hyun Sun Park to elaborate on the mobile transportation cart system and the advanced public transportation system in Korea. Ms. Park is the general manager of the International Cooperation Team of ITS Korea. At ITS, they promote the use of Korean intelligent transportation systems in other countries by hosting events and knowledge sharing workshops. So over to you, Ms. Park. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Antonio. First of all, I'm also very nice to meet you all, and I'm very honored to join this knowledge sharing program hosted by the Ministry of Korean and ADB. So would you please share my presentation file? Okay, my title is the Mobile Transportation Car System and Advanced Public Transportation System, but through my presentation, I would like to focus on the public transportation, which ITS technologies are applied. Actually, the previous presentation done by Dr. Kim, he was a bit mentioned about ITS, and he's usually focused on the future technology about like ITS. But for my presentation, I would like to focusing on the existing technologies, how we improve public transportation by using ITS. Okay, next, please. Okay, so my presentation is divided into 3 parts. Firstly, I briefly review the Korean ITS services, and secondly, I'd like to introduce the bus information system, which can be called like fleet management in Europe area. And lastly, I'd like to explain about the automatic fare collection system, which is like electronic payment. So, and a bit mentioned, I'm going to cover a bit mass on this third session. Next, please. So as Dr. Kim's presentation explained, Korea introduced ITS to maximize the existing transportation infrastructure by using IT technology to solve the traffic situation. So actually, according to Korean ITS architecture, the ITS services are divided into 7 categories. But for actually, traffic management and CITS, like this intelligent vehicle and road area. But in this presentation, I'm more focusing on this public transportations and this electronic payment, especially automatic fare collection system for public transportations. And maybe I'd like to hope I will have next chance to cover the rest of IT services in the futures. Next page, please. So let me explain the overview of a bus information system. Actually, among ITS services, this BIS service is most popular in Korea because it improves a lot convenience of bus users. So actually, this is bus, and bus is equipped with OVU, and the real-time bus location is collected, and those collected data is going to the centers, and the center process that data and providing those the real-time bus arrival time to the users. And not only for users, this real-time bus monitoring is sharing with the bus companies and public authority, which is in charge of bus operation. So let me explain what kind of data are provided to each group. So for the bus users, the expected arrival time and route and the costs are provided to the users. So actually the users waiting for the bus at the bus stop, they can know what time their bus will come to the bus stop. So in that way, people feel more convenient when they use bus. And for the bus drivers, actually, the bus operation need to be regular, right? Regular frequencies regular operation. So through this OBU on the bus, the interval between the previous bus and next bus is displayed and provided to the bus drivers. So the bus drivers can adjust his speed or the distance between the next and previous buses. In that way, they can trying to keep the regular interval. And also, if there is any accident or any emergency situation happened on the road beforehand, then those information also shared with bus driver through that OBU. And also this bus operation information is shared with bus manager, like including bus companies and public authority, like local government. So they can monitor that bus is, the bus drivers, the behaviors, if they are, in case the driver drive the bus very violently, those situation is detected real time. So in that way, we can monitor all the situation regarding the bus operation. Next, please. And so why we introduced this system? Because in the past, like before, let me take on like Seoul cases. In Seoul, the urban traffic situation is, congestion really bad, and the bus doesn't have any punctuality on their arrival. So people prefer to have their own passenger car. In that way, the bus the traffic congestion is worsen and worsen. So actually to improve the service quality by the securing punctuality, and also to improve the user convenience, and also in that way they are trying to improve the bus services, and improve the bus services encourage people to use public transportation. So actually through the adoption of this BIS, we can facilitate the usage of the public transportation. Next, please. So this is the definition of BIS and BMS. Actually, there are similar system, but BIS is more focused on the user perspective. So it's more focused on to provide real-time bus arrival time to the users, and bus management system is more perspective of the managers, who is operating the bus systems. So if you see here, the main object of BIS is to provide real-time bus arrival time to the users. The main goal of BMS is to provide the real-time bus locations to the bus managers so that they can monitoring the bus operation is going well, and if there is any bus drivers mild behavior is happening or not. Next, please. So this BIS system is quite, actually, this is it's been a long time to implement this. Actually, BIS is implemented since 2004 to 2005. Actually, Seoul did bus reform in 2004. At that time, they also adopted this BIS system. So, and right next year, 2005, many local governments are starting the pilot project in BIS, which means we have like 20-year experience in implementation of BIS. So now we have lots of methods and lots of ways to implement BIS. So, for the collecting data, we can use like the OBE, or we can use mobile application. In terms of the BIMS center, if the local government has like lots of buses operating and a lot of buses secured, in that case they can have their own physical BIS center. But otherwise, the local government has enough money or the enough buses. In that case, they can use like the cloud center. They can share the center with other local governments by the cloud center, and also by providing the data I mean, based on your situation or your local government situation, we can suggest like, application, smartphone or like website, or if the bus station is really many people are using, in the case, we actually suggest, this type of BIT installed in the bus stop. So actually now we have a 20-year experience, so we have so many things to suggest to each situations. Next, please. So, as I mentioned already, so, regarding the center, so the independent center or center sharing, and this OpenBIS, this is not actually commercialized stage. Actually, this is, the R&D stage and development stage, because I mean, without the physical center, or without the sensors, we can implement the BI system only using the smartphone application. So actually, when a country or when a city want to implement BIS but doesn't have enough budget, in the case, maybe they can use this kind of OpenBIS, but it's not commercialized yet. Okay, next page, please. So, yeah. Okay, so previous page. Yeah, it's not my next page, please. Okay, so as I told you, we have been, 20 years to implement BIS. So already 150 cities has their own BIS services. And as I told you, this is quite popular. So now every Korean people are using BIS in their daily life, and the satisfaction is quite high. Next page, please. So if you see here, people are using bus every day. So that's why, these kind of services are quite close to the people and users. So if you see here, the citizen satisfaction is quite high, quite high. And also, if you see here, through this BIS system, we can monitor the bus driver's behavior. In that way, in case of Seoul, the accident decreased by 24% because they know the local government and bus company are monitoring the driving behavior. So in that way, it is contributing a lot to decrease the bus accident. Next page, please. Actually, this is the things that I covered already, so I just skip this one. So next page, please. So now I move on to the AFCSC, Automatic Fare Collection System. This is the second part consisting of our public transportation. Now everyone, or most people are using the transportation card instead of the cash. So in case in Seoul, for the subway it's 100%, and for the bus is like it's almost 99%. So next page, please. So actually, in Korea, I'd like to say that we have one card all pass, which means if you have only one card, you can use it everywhere in Korea. So let me take an example of T-Money. Yes. So if you have a T-Money card, you can use it in Seoul, Busan, and Jeju area. Not only for that, you can use it various of transportation modes: subway, bus, KTX, the urban bus, intercity buses, and paying the toll, and many you can use that T-Money, integrated T-Money card to many places and to many the transportation modes. So actually, I can say that this is, one card all pass is very initial stage of mass, because it's not, maybe it's very initial stage, because we can integrate the transportation mode and we can pay with one card. So it by the way, we increase the convenience of users a lot. So next page, please.
2 minutes.
Yeah. So maybe now I'm going to talking about the benefits of AFCS. Actually, it's for the user, it's quite convenient, and all the data is accumulated of this AFCS. So this kind of data will be used for the local governments or a policymaker to establish new policies. Next page, please. Seoul has, now let me explain about the Seoul mass implementation plan. Actually, recently Seoul established the, ITES master plan, which includes like some of their plan on mass. Actually, Seoul is 10 million people living there, so a lot of like the transportation modes are there, and those information and those data are integrated through the company called T-Money. So actually they have the bus information and taxi information, and now they are providing some bicycles and the sharing car data as well. So all of those data is collected in Seoul. So Seoul will be implementing MaaS based on these integrated data. Next page, please. But the thing is like this, actually, to implement MaaS is not a matter of technology. Actually, it requires a lot of agreement between the relevant bodies. So actually, to realize real MaaS in Korea, we need to solve their problems in advance. So this is the end of my presentation. I'm sorry, I need to cover many things, so my presentation a bit fast. So thank you for listening my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Park, for that very interesting presentation. I think the greatest value added of the BIS system is, the convenience it offers to the public and the predictability it offers. It allows commuters to better plan their commute, no?
Sure.
And so it makes it more attractive, a more attractive transport mode. So thank you very much.
Thank
we'll
you.
hear more later in the Q&A session. Okay, so up next, please welcome Mr. Hyung Jin Ju. He is the CEO of Charge EV, which has been among the leaders in the electronic vehicle charging business, and he has been in the industry for over 10 years. The company has had business relations with international car manufacturing companies such as Hyundai, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and the like. So he will talk about electric vehicles and the charging infrastructure. So please go ahead, Mr. Ju.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. This time I present the next 15 minutes with the subject of electric vehicle and charging. My name is Hyungjin Ju. You can also call me Philip, and I'm a CEO of Charge EV. My major in the university was electronics engineering, and my career is most likely IT, which is very much different from electric industry and charging industry. But you will be able to understand why I'm in the charging industry at the end of my presentation. Next. Okay, next. So I'd like to begin with the definition of EV charging. Theoretically, it means charging battery for electric vehicle. But I added two more definitions. The first is connectivity of information, because the information is valuable component to connect charging point and EV users. The second is compensation for time consuming, because charging itself cannot be as sure as lubrication. So it has to be cheaper than fueling and make feel shorter by doing something else. For example, shopping, watching movie, and watching Netflix in the car. Next. Okay. There is only one pattern in fueling, as you can see in the picture left. But EV charging mode, they suggest two hierarchy, route charging and destination charging. Route charging is similar with fueling. You drive there, wait until it reaches to your target charging and leave. So fast charging is necessary to minimize your time consuming. Destination charging takes longer due to lower charging speed, but it tries to find a way to remove the impression of wasting time during charging. Next. Due to the background that I explained in the previous page, behavior shift happens. Let's look at the picture left. Charging time consuming is variable depending on the charging speed. Let's assume you have Tesla Model 3 long range, which is 75 kilowatt-hour battery size. It takes 8 hours with level 2 charger to charge from 20% to 100%. If you find an ultra high-speed charger, it takes 15 to 20 minutes from 20% to 80%. Let's call our behavior changes from a feature phone to the smartphone. We used to look for a bigger battery size as the first step, and then we change our behavior to charge as often as possible. It happens to EV exactly the same way. Rather than finding the bigger battery capacity and faster chargers, we will focus on finding less time-sensitive pattern. Next. Fleet is different from passenger EV behavior. There is higher entry barrier to replace existing gas and diesel to electric. Korea government utilizes subsidy policy to work out. They provided $15,000 to taxi, which is 1.5 times higher than general EV, and $80,000 to EV bus. Although those subsidies are lower every year, I personally think it is very effective to convince taxi and bus company to move on to the electric. Additionally, saving fuel and saving maintenance fee are important criteria for them. Both cases require fast charging depot as mandatory, so charging solution has to be considered in parallel with vehicles. Higher than 70 kilowatt battery size for taxi and higher than 200 kilowatt hour for Metro City bus would be sufficient by considering vehicle mileage in Korea market statistics. Next. Charging connectors are standardized into several types. Each continental or country picks up one or two types of type distribution on the left picture. And there are some additional supplements such as outlet charger on top of the right corner, vehicle-to-vehicle charging, and mobility charging at bottom of the right corner in the slide. However, those supplements are additional solutions rather than mainstream. Next. Korea is one of successful cases that shortly populated EV charging infrastructure with government-driven. MOE, Ministry of Environment, has invested high-power charger in public places, including highway rest area. KEPCO, a government company as a monopoly power distributor, invested more than 8,000 chargers last 3 years. Our company, ChargeEV, is running 11,000 chargers with 60,000 subscribers as the first generation company in the market since 2012. Next. I brought an adequate figure that describes the whole charging industry value chain from NEC homepage, as shown in the presentation. There are more components to take consideration than you thought. First of all, you have to secure locations. The appropriate location is based on your target charging speed and business target. For hardware component perspective, there are fast charger, which is called DC charger, and AC charger, normally called level 2 charger, with 7 kilowatt speed, canopy to protect chargers from the weather condition, IoT modem to communicate between platform and chargers, etc. There are more complicated components in software platform side. Application is required to connect user and charger, service platform for subscription business, various payment solutions, various value-added services, and so on. Next. As a consequence of this presentation, I will share my thought to be considered in launch EV project. The most important thing is to check the government policy direction. Since the government has the limited budget, it is important to understand the government subsidy direction and then grab the sector to target on. In case of Korea, government put higher priority on passenger car, bus, and taxi than motorcycle. Then you should understand the local environment. Who will own the vehicle on the target project? Who is the landlord of the target charging station? By reviewing Korea case, most of highways are owned by government company, and it was not easy for private company to secure the highway rest area. So our company focused on destination charging station than route charging station. To understand the difference between must-have and nice-to-have are important too. Everyone prefers fast charger and bigger battery size, but it is not cost-effective approach for someone who uses vehicle for 10 kilometers commute and periodically charging at home and workplace. Utilize IT technology is important to provide useful information and better user experiences, such as display charger location and its availability in the application. Make a reservation for charging usage, start and stop charging remotely, etc. Next. The last slide is the case study that currently going on between BMW Korea and Chargebee, our company. BMW Korea sells more than 50,000 plug-in hybrid car per year. So they wanted to provide a different promotion for customers. Since plug-in hybrid is using both fuel and electric, we created hybrid prepaid EV card that contains $1,000 value point, and that point are payable on both gas station and charging station, as well as car wash station. Next. This is all my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention during my presentation. And if you have any further questions, don't hesitate to contact me by email address described in this last page. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ju, for that presentation on the e-vehicle charging infrastructure. So I really believe that in the shift towards e-vehicles, the most important component, I believe, is a charging infrastructure, because having a well-developed charging infrastructure is key to encouraging people to adopt the shift, because you don't want to find yourself in the middle of a highway with no charging stations available. So thank you very much for that. Okay, so on our next session, we will focus on the bus rapid transit systems, which are quite popular among developing member countries because they have the potential to deliver efficient public transport at reasonable costs. Our speaker, Ms. So Young Iris Yu, is a principal researcher at the Korea Railroad Institute. Her research interests focus on advanced technology applications in public transportation systems engineering, including super bus rapid transit, on-demand mobility systems, and planning for a user-friendly transit center, among others. Please join me as we welcome Ms. Yu. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Vicky. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. This is Soyoung Iris Yu from Korea Railroad Research Institute. This is my big pleasure to share our project here with all of you. Today, I'm going to present bus rapid transit system, which we are enhancing system through research and development from 2020 last year to 2022 next year. As you know, BRT system is all over the world and it is not new. However, This is a good example to mitigate emissions and take a responsible for many commuters. So I would like to say that the BRT is one of the sustainable transportation we will live with. Could you please put my slide on? Yeah, thank you. Next, please. Yeah, I will give you presentation in this order. Next, please. So what is BRT system? As you well know, BRT is a bus-based transit system to achieve high capacity, speed, and service quality. In terms of BRT, we often remind segregated bus lanes, off-road fare collection, level boarding, bus priority at intersection, and barrier-free service. ITDP, which is Institute for Transportation Development Policy, provides BRT standard to evaluate international BRT system. Unfortunately, Korean BRT system is qualified just basic BRT system and did not achieve any of medals, gold, silver, and bronze either. Here in Korea, many of the cities try to implement BRT systems and achieve a high level from the ITDP standard. I mean that all their effort for providing more efficient public transportation system will be officially deserved with the first medal achieved city in Korea. The most important is outcome directly goes to citizens as a benefit, such that the commuters want to so badly BRT system provide on-time service like a metro system. Next, please. As you guess, we have several BRT issues in Korea. Our individual vehicle penetration rate is very high, and it is nearly 0.5 vehicle per person. It means that our load capacity is already full. When we put the separated bus lanes on the road, it is always controversial whether it is efficient or not. On the other hand, if a dedicated lane is close to V by C, volume for capacity, it is high chance to build a queue at the bus stops, which is going to violate initial goal of BRT system. So that we really need is to maintain the efficient level of condition with operation standard and management system. So we also have several issues such as the bus lane layout, requirement of bus doors, screen doors, and huge gap of onboard bus unit among cities. I would like to say that it is because of different capability and budget by cities. When BRT system operate across the cities, it often suffers congestion and service deficiency at city boundary. Next. Although we have unsolved issues in our BRT system, we are trying to follow the specific rule for planning BRT system. As shown in the figures, it has 3 steps: feasibility studies, basic and implementation design, and implementation and operation management. Each step should provide a rational reason for what cities choose the specific elements of BRT system. Right now, our responsible department is providing rule to meet the standard of SBRT either. SBRT is our advanced systems that we are currently doing research and development. Next, please. So let me tell you about SBRT in detail. Our SBRT consists of 4 elements. Firstly, S-Bus. S-Bus is vehicle itself, And secondly, SBMS is Management Center System. Thirdly, SBITS provides real-time information and comfort environmental for passenger at bus stops. Finally, priority signal system at intersection is last element. Next, please. Yes, bus, please. Yeah. Yes, right. S-Bus is one of the vehicle type to serve BRTs only. So our BRT S-Bus is articulated bus with doors on both sides and powered by electricity. It has good quality of passenger ride comfort and convenient boarding with the vehicle scaffolding. The bus also will be automatically detecting each passenger's trajectory from onboarding to offboarding. Ultimately, it will apply to pair onboarding collection system. Some of you do not feel it is an advanced vehicle, but what we are trying to implement is here bus with doors on both sides. Currently, we don't have a regal ground operation, both side doors bus. So we are trying to prove it is efficient and safe. Of course, S-Bus are corresponding to infrastructure which are dedicated right away, island type of platform and overtaking lanes. Next, please. As mentioned earlier, SBMS is taking charge of managing service quality and operation efficiency control. It will also hold variety of operation scenarios and choose what the city is really needed. For example, emergency vehicle can use BRT dedicated lane without barrier if it is necessary. And SBMS can make a lane clear by sending BRT control signal. Priority signal system and pedestrian safety detection could be made a final decision on the center system. Also, SBMS will reduce drivers' stress by eliminating bus drivers' tasks besides driving itself. Next, please. SBITS is Bus Information Terminal and Station. Our goal for SBIT is providing more comfort, waiting space for passengers regardless weather and bad quality of atmosphere such as emissions. Also, it should be a safe space from public security. ITDP requests to prepare a collection system to saving onboarding time. However, in Korea, we have pretty decent pair systems with a smart card using NFC technology. So we also have many stakeholders. Sometimes it is not easy to balancing pair to multi-operation agency. So it depends on cities. Therefore, if necessary, we can reduce with the automatic onboarding fares collection system. What we are also trying to improve here is to tag list type. It's a little bit advanced tag list type. For example, if you holding the smartphone in your pocket or bag, you don't need to take out of it and do not tag on the payment terminals. Next, please. This is priority signal system. This is well known and has studied for a long time. However, we haven't fully implemented yet in Korea. So this is because I think authorities that take charge on bus operation, signal operation, and load management are different and independent. Therefore, it is not easy to make a consensus of them. So right now, what we are doing now for priority signal system is to set 3 modules and find the solution which is not to violate. Maybe it's better put this way, maybe less violate each authority's boundary and responsibility. So module number 1 is to optimize time of day signals schedule and bus operation schedule with a two-way communication and feedback procedure. And module number 2 is notify and allow departure, bus departure at each stops at a control variable after central system calculate the condition without bus stop at intersection. Module number 3 is active priority step to use only or extension green, which is the last way to use if both the modules are failed. As long as we have BMS, the third module will be very low chance to use it on field. Next, please. So you probably have a common question by now. When and where can we meet the brand new SBRT here? So our research group is currently working with the Sejong City close to make it come true. So our test route number is alphabet B and number 0 in Sejong City. And hopefully we will see it next year. The specific schedule will be shown in the slide. And meanwhile, if you have any question, please feel free to let me know. Thank you for the listening and your precious time.
Thank you very much, Miss Yu. I think, the first time I heard about BRTs was back in planning school when they were talking about the BRT system in Curitiba in Brazil. And it's amazing how far it's gone with technology. And I think this is a very excellent example of making traditional infrastructure, so just buses, dedicated roadways, and then making it more efficient with technology. So I think this is something that ADB developing member countries would be very interested in, and it would be very relevant to solving a lot of their transportation solutions. Thank you very much, Ms. Yu.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I'm moving on to the last but not the least speaker. We will have Mr. Ryan Kwang Bok Lee. Mr. Lee is the Director for the Overseas Infrastructure and Economic Research Department, Korea Overseas Infrastructure and Urban Development Corporation. He is in charge of operating the K-City Network, the Korean government's Smart City Development Support Program for overseas governments, particularly to support public-private partnership investments. Mr. Lee will talk about smart city development and the KIND support program. Go ahead, Mr. Lee.
Okay. So good afternoon. The best was saved for the last. My name is Ryan Lee, working at KIND. We have the longest name ever, so long that nobody can memorize, Korea Overseas Infrastructure and Urban Development Corporation. So everybody prefers the abbreviation, KIND. So today, I'll present on the latest smart city demands we've collected from a program called K-City Network and what KIND can do about them. So K-City Network speed and simplicity derives favorable reception from governments and municipalities around the world. So this K-City Network is the fund for project planning and feasibility analysis and online-offline capacity building. These two are for overseas governments, and for private companies, we give the funding for the smart solution demonstration, like pilot installation. So basically, K-City Network is a Korean government's budget assigned for overseas smart city and cooperation. So we started this program last year, and we received 80 applications and 111 applications this year. So why are overseas governments enthusiastic about this program? We think, firstly, speed. The The call for application is in the first quarter, and the target project selection is done in the second, and consultants who will do the planning and feasibility study are contracted and dispatched in the third quarter, and the study goes on till the year end or early next year. So this fast process is the biggest reason, we think. And secondly, simplicity. We intentionally made the application form simple and easy to fill up. There's no complex requirement of submitting formal project concept paper or something. And lastly, we didn't set any criteria for the level of smartness of the project. One country's conventional technology can be regarded as a smart solution in another country. So setting standards like your smart city project application must be above this level will only unnecessarily limit the project development potential. So for these reasons, we think KCC Network had favorable reception. And this program is budgeted by MOLIT and operated by KIND, while actual planning analysis are carried out by external consultants. So this is the structure of the program. There is this program owner, Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport, designated KIND as the KCC Network operating institution. And KIND do the call for projects to overseas governments, municipalities, and governmental institutions. And these overseas governments send the project applications, and KIND selects the project and planning. We have the discussion with the overseas governments about the planning scope. Then we do the comparative tender to select the consultant, and we dispatch them. And also it follows capacity building and knowledge exchange. And when the project is very feasible, we can do the further study and detailed planning. And lastly, we can support the actual financial advisory and investment. So KCC Network provided planning analysis to 12 projects in 2020 and just finished selecting 11 for 2021. So this is for the list of 2020 project selection. The upper row are the smart city level development. The lower row is smart solution level. So you can take one example, like Vietnam smart city in the Mekong Delta region was supported. And also Thailand had Khon Kaen smart city mobility master plan was selected. And for 2021, there are also new projects, and Philippine Clark Free Economic Zone Smart City Master Planning was selected, and also Vietnam Haiphong Smart Transportation Management System Master Planning was to be supported. So despite its short history, the large volume of application provides insight on the latest demands of smart city development. So we reviewed the smart city development purposes. There are many cases that they need to tackle the existing urban problem, and they try to adopt smart city solutions. Philippines Clark is one case, and Myanmar Naypyidaw, they wanted to develop smart water metering system. Also, there is an existing city development plan, but when they develop it, they wanted to make it future-proof by adopting smart solutions. So Indonesia's new capital city is one case. Also, Vietnam's Ha Tinh smart city is the plan to adopt smart city to make the urban development future-proof. And there are some other cases like tourism locations and smart campuses. They wanted to adopt smart solutions. So in Malaysia, Penang Island and Pankor Island, they wanted to develop smart mobility or kiosks for tourists or smart tickets, those kind of solutions. And also smart city development governance was different by country. So Indonesia and Laos, the federal government has the strongest demand. And if you see the Philippines and Vietnam, central government sets a higher level concept and direction only, and many cities and provinces show their strong demands of developing their own smart city. And in some countries, the central ministry collected regional demands and prioritized then sends the application. So Malaysia was such a case. So this difference could come from the different degree of devolution or the different level of central government's involvement on smart city development. And the insights we got continue. What were the most requested, most demanded smart city components? Obviously, transportation and mobility. There were Subic Bay Port in Philippines and Da Nang in Vietnam, and also Haiphong in Vietnam. They wanted the smarter transportation planning or mobility solutions. And e-government, including public security and safety. There were cases of Jakarta, Indonesia, and Panabo in Philippines, and Phnom Penh in there, and also water and environment management. We think this solution demand is going to increase with the ESG trend. So Naypyidaw case and also Malaysia Klang air pollution solution was selected. And other insights, we had this successful engagement brings the next step engagement. Turkey had so many applications, and in 2020 there were successful projects, and this project lead to the next step project in 2021. And these few advantages, only by making it simple and easy to apply and quick to proceed, we were able to make close communication with the various municipalities and government ministries. So we think these few advantages naturally lead to awareness and demand increase for KCT network. And we realized that the number of regional projects is definitely more than the number of projects from federal level. And to realize these smart city projects, there are work to do for each stakeholder. For government, the urban planning should be visionary and future-proof. And of course, we have to consider the induced demand, the demands created by establishing new roads or mass transportation. Also, they have to set the rules and incentives very, importantly. So when the government has the public development project, they have to have the law that can freeze the price and also prevents the sales or transfer, which will only make the price higher. And also in America, tax incentives are securitized and transferred to other people, and it becomes the source of the financing. The private sector, they need to provide motivation and innovation. For example, Seoul Multimodal Terminal in Gangnam area, there were very, high technology was needed because they had to keep the ground level bus terminal and commercial complex. Then the, under that there is the layer for subway number 3, and they have to create a subway number 9. And the gap between subway number 3 and subway number 9, physically only the gap was 15 centimeters, and they adopted high technology using gigantic pipes, and they realized the development. So such innovation can come from private sector. And of course, the financing and investment can come from private sponsors and financiers. Lastly, DSIs and MDB, knowledge and information sharing is very important, and policy advisory is very important. Also, DSIs and MDBs are the one who have to lead the blended financing. A long list of KCT network's unsupported projects is invaluable information ADB and KIND can collaborate it with. So this is the typical PPP process that was suggested in the certified PPP professional body of knowledge. And throughout this process, KCT network can become the source to identify potential smart city projects, and it can become the source for master planning and feasibility analysis fund to make the green light decision. And of course, ADB, you have the technical assistance and transaction advisory and all these financial products covering many stages. And KIND, as the governmental investor, it can provide financial advisory and structuring and equity fund investment, and it will carry out sponsor duties so that the project can be financed and managed. And this is my final slide. One recent renewable IPP deal shows that meeting stakeholders' needs and targets will lead to a good blended financing structure. Let me show you a very interesting project case. This is a Fiji solar plus ESS PPP structure. And I just modified it for presentation purpose, but the original source is Development Marketing Institute. So there are these financing sources, equity and debt and grant. You can see the grant, so it is the structure for blended financing. And as the equity, there's a private company who invested 100%, $2.1 million. And there was debt from Fiji Development Bank. But out of this $4.9 million, GCF provided this 3.9. So pure exposure from Fiji Development Bank was only 1 million. So by adding this equity and debt, there was this special purpose company with the $7 million, and they will have the EPC and they will have the operation and maintenance contractors. And this FPC is supposed to sell the power to national power company Energy Fiji, and the Energy Fiji will pay the tariff to this solar power company. But KOICA in this structure provided 4 million grants, and they provide ESS to Energy Fiji. And DCF didn't stop the lending only, and they also provide $1.1 million capacity building to the ministry. So they say the reason blended financing is difficult is that each financier and investor has different goals and conditions. But in this project, the private developer firstly approached it to GCF, as this is the renewable project. Also, they realized that if ESS is included in the total investment cost, the tariffs they require to Energy Fiji would too much increase, and Energy Fiji is likely not to afford such high tariffs. So they approached it to KOICA, the grant experts. So though they also wanted to increase the co-financing opportunities with MDB. So this project is a good opportunity for them. So KOICA gave this grant for ESS, and this filled up the project viability gap and the government's affordability gap. And also GCF fulfilled all these targets, lending and grant for the capacity building, and also they had the renewable generation rollout. So this is my point. When we do the project partnership making and the financial structuring, if you understand different stakeholders, different demands and goals, and if you more correctly understand their support conditions when it comes to MDBs and DFIs, we will have much better chance to realize blended financing structure. So today I introduced a KCT network program and shared the insights we've got from the operation. And also I suggested roles for each stakeholder of Smart City and collaboration with ADB and KIND. Lastly, I showed an exemplary blended financing case where each stakeholder's different needs were all well addressed. So although the case was about energy, but I'm pretty much sure that we can apply same principle to our Smart City development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lee, for that very interesting presentation. So it's great that Korea has this mechanism to this program whereby you're supporting the wider use of IT in urban management and governance, and also how to managing resources. You mentioned projects in water management and also air pollution. But I think what's also very important here is what you underlined in the latter part of your presentation. It brings together different stakeholders, the government, private sector, and ADBs. And by bringing them all together, you find a way to make the project more feasible, financing wise. Okay, so congratulations and thank you very much to our speakers. Thank you for keeping within your time. We are actually very much on time. So thank you for sharing your time and expertise with us. So I would now like to open the floor for questions. Okay, so there's one question now in the chat box. So this is from Okju. So the question is to Philip on EV charging. So the cost of, she's interested to know about the cost of a charging station, the average cost of a charging station. And then do you have any standardization of charging connectors in Korea? And then is this connector, can it also be used for three-wheelers? Thank you very much. So Philip, the question is for you. Mr. Ju, please go ahead.
Got the question, and okay, let me answer question by question. For number one, for the cost of charging station, it depending on which charger you install. For example, level 2 charger, AC charger. In Korea case, it costs $5,000 per charger, including the construction. In case of high-speed charger called level 3 charger, it costs $40,000 to $50,000 per charger. But you have to consider every country has a different license system, and the construction fee, that kind of thing are variable, so you have to keep in mind. Okay, let's move on to the next question. For the Korea case, we have a standard. In case of AC charger, globally it's unified, called J1772. It happens to every country. In case of DC high-speed charger, there are 3 types of standard. At the beginning, Korea used to select all those 3 types as a standard, but it was not costly effective, so the government decided to change their mind, and now the standard is only one, DC combo type 1. For your question number 3, in case of 3 fields, in my experience, most likely they support level 2 charger, which we call J1772. So more than 90% they deploy this connector. So if you are interested in this project and you have to consider the connection type, it will be sufficient information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Philip, for that response. Okay, so another question coming from Terry Cho of ADB. So the question is for Ms. Park on the automatic fare collection system. You mentioned it will also create revenue for government to get rid of bank transaction fees. So how is the government managing this asset? Ms. Park, please go ahead.
Okay, okay, let me see the question first.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah, create revenue for government to actually, you know, for Korea to settle that all the integrated payment to settling, we established, you know, SPC called T-Money. So actually, you know, T-Money is in charge of that settling. So actually, you know, in case of Seoul, they just built but they built, you know, new SPC, special purpose company, yeah, and also they are handling all the settlement regarding the card payment. So as far as I know, yeah, actually, you know, the share of the market share of the T-Money, as far as I know, like 50% of market share of the T-Money is owned by Seoul Metropolitan Government. So in case of Seoul and Korea, we established new companies to do that. Is that okay?
Thank you very much for that. So Terry, any follow-up question for that? Okay. So I guess none. Thank you very much for that response. But something I wanted to ask you also as a follow-up question to the BIS. So it's an integrated system. So like if you have the card, whether you ride the bus or the subway or the taxi, you can track that particular person. No? So how do you manage the data privacy or security issues that come with having this, being able to have all this data? Thank you.
Actually, as far as I know, that the privacy is also issue in regarding the ITES and BIS as well. So when they install or establish BI system for the local government or for the city, they have to put that privacy issues in the RFP. So yeah, in that way they can protect the privacy matters. But actually, I don't think each person is traced by BIS. Actually, but maybe the in case of Seoul, people are using the T-money, and in the case that T-money, the transaction will be detected. But I don't think the personal data is not traced by the BIS system.
I see. Okay, thank you for that. So Terry has a follow-up question. So since T-money owns these passenger data, how does government use this data to plan for new transportation investment?
Well, actually, as I told you, the T-money is, their market share, 50% of market share is owned by Seoul Metropolitan Government. So I'm not sure. I mean, if you go to TOPIS, which is Seoul Metropolitan Traffic Center, and if you go that center, you can see all the data of transaction when people getting on the bus, and when people get off the bus, and all the data is traced in that. I mean, the transaction data is traced in the center, and based on those accumulated data, Seoul is using to establish new policies. For example, certain area there are a lot of transactions regarding the transaction. Then in the case they are planning to rescheduling of a bus operation, or maybe this area actually there are a few passengers just using that. In the case, they just adjust the bus operation that way. And also based on this data, they can evaluate the bus companies, the subsidy. Actually, Seoul Metropolitan Government gives some subsidy to bus companies to make the service quality is good enough. So they need to evaluate each companies, right? So for that evaluation, the Seoul Metro government is using that data.
Okay, so it's really using big data or the data that you collect to plan for future investments. Yeah. Great. Okay, so another follow-up question from Terry. Can they further? So again, on the data, a question on the data, can they further disaggregate by demography so that it can inform the government how people plan for the trips by age or gender?
Yeah, sure. Actually, just as Terry just, I think someone who is already from T-money, I guess someone already participating our webinar, and he or she already replied to them. Actually, in Seoul, we recently implement night bus. All bus we implemented because Seoul recognized the demand on certain area to use a lot of the public transportation. So to demand those people's demand on bus usage, they implement new bus service, the night bus route. Yeah. So actually, those data can be used that way. And as far as I know, recently, the Seoul metropolitan area can get to know which bus stations has most passenger in Seoul area. So they consulting with the business owner to if you start your business near here, there might be a lot of passengers going away, so going and passing. So Seoul people are using that data in that way too. Yes.
Okay, thank you very
Yeah.
much for your responses and patiently answering our questions. So I think we've run up to the end of our session. So before we end, may I request Robert to, well, first, may I request the speakers to turn on your camera so we can take one photo before we close the session. Robert, may I request you to take the photo? And just let us know. Okay, Robert? Okay, 1, 2, let me take the photo. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, great. So thank you very much, everyone, for your for sharing your expertise, your insights on this, and also for our participants for joining this session. I hope that we picked up a lot of insights from our from our speakers. So thank you very much again, and we hope to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here's the group photo. Bye.